So this question comes from Thies V. I have this very underperforming employee and was hoping you had some advice on how to deal with this. It is unfortunately not an option to fire him. It would solve this problem, but I can't. He is unable to do any of the tasks that he has to be able to do. He uses twice the time compared to other workers, and the result is so bad that it would be easier and faster to have someone else do it over instead of fixing it. He doesn't follow along during discussions, so when a subject is discussed and solution is found, he starts suggesting things that has already been discussed and doesn't understand why it is not up for discussion anymore. He doesn't even work as a rubber duck for rubber duck debugging or a sparring partner because he doesn't follow along and creates confusion instead of giving feedback. I need some way to tell him that he's not good enough. I've tried to tell him for weeks with hints and hammering down on mistakes to have him do it again, but the product he creates is still as bad. I really hope you have a solution for this because I'm kind of stuck with him for the next year and I don't want to pressure the others to do more work just because he is incompetent. So this is a question that comes up every once in a while. The question is, what do you do with employees that really suck? What do you do with employees that really suck, right? And so, when you go and you hear all these motivational speakers and you hear all these leadership speakers and you see all this Hollywood crap, there is this idea out there that if only I can soulfully look into my employee's eyes, that he will be able to grasp the significance of his failures and somehow he will become better. And the reality is that's not really how it works, right? If you have an employee and they have a couple of issues, right? Let's say the employee comes in late. Let's say the employee always comes in 15 minutes late. Otherwise, they're good enough. You can deal with that, right? You can sit down, you can have a little disciplinary forum, you can have a discussion, and you can tell them they have to be there on time, right? That is something you can fix. If they're not documenting things properly, getting geeks to document things, it's a hard fix. It is much harder to fix that problem than it seems like it should. But again, that is something that you can probably solve. All of these little things, like following along in meetings. I had to do that with some of my employees where they would be in meetings and they would be like looking at their smartphones back when smartphones were new. And I had to be like, stop looking at your smartphone during a meeting when the client's paying hundreds of dollars an hour for this meeting. Right? All of those things, you can deal with. You can sit down, you can have a discussion, right? But when you're having major problems with employees, one of the things that you have to realize is that many times employees just fundamentally don't understand what they're doing wrong, or they simply don't care. Again, the best story I ever had is I had an employee, I really did, and he was a good guy. He really was. Like, that was the most frustrating thing. He was a good guy. He was in his mid-30s. He had kids. He had been with a real tech company for like 10 years. He had good certifications. He had good human interaction skills. He had good tech skills, right? But something in his personal life was causing him issues. And it was one of those things where I would go in, and like every couple of days I would have to discipline him. I'd have to talk with him. And then like one time I remember I sat down and we sat there, and actually at this desk in the office that I had there, and I was talking to him and I was like, you know why we're here, right? And I remember him looking at me, and again, this wasn't a kid. This was not like a 17-year-old. This wasn't a crackhead. This wasn't somebody I'm trying to bring up and make better. This is a professional person. If you met this person, again, and I remember him looking at me and be like, I don't know, because I told him, it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now in order to get you to do the work, right? And I remember him looking at me and saying, yeah, I wouldn't want to have to be in your shoes right now. And so this was a person that all these other things, and even understood the problem that I was having with him as a boss, and still kept doing whatever the hell it is. And again, I ended up firing him like 2 weeks later because I was like, I don't know what's going on, right? And so this is one of the issues that you run into with employees, is they just do some weird stuff. And the thing is a lot of times we have this idea like, well, you should be able to bring these people up. And it doesn't work. So the first thing that I would say is normally you should run through the disciplinary process. Again, in almost every jurisdiction, the more documentation you have, the better. right? So whether you're in an at-will employment state like Maryland is or not, just document the problems. Sit them down and have disciplinary sessions where you say, listen, you have been late for the third time. I am writing this up. Or, whatever issues you're having. Have them sit down and document the issues, because when you document the issues, it makes it easier to fire them, right? There's less legal problems, right? If you fire somebody, they're like, I'm gonna sue you, and basically you pull out a folder, go thunk. These are all the disciplinary issues I've had with you over a year. Yeah, you go ahead and find a lawyer to sue me, right? So the first thing is I would say is start going through a formal disciplinary process with a person. That'll do two things. One, it'll tell them that you're serious. Again, a lot of times with people, we talk about, like, they just don't. You look them in the eye. You soulfully look them in the eye and you say, I am serious. They just don't quite get it. There is something about sitting them down and having a formal, stern, I am the boss, you are the employee, you are failing to live up to expectations, and we are documenting your failure, right? There is something that sometimes that'll get the things flowing. So the first thing is you sit there and you do the disciplinary meeting. To try to bang it through their head that they really are failing. Sometimes that'll help fix the issue. With the amount of problems you're saying that this person has, I doubt it's going to fix the issue. So then with that documentation process, you now are creating a case for getting rid of the person. Again, your boss may say that you can't fire this person. But again, that's before you walk in with a folder of disciplinary notices saying, listen, these are the 20 disciplinary meetings I've had to have with this employee in a month. Can I fire him yet? Or yet? So that's the first thing. Then the next thing is, and then it also helps you in a year, right? A lot of us don't realize how quickly time goes by, right? I just left for my little 9-month adventure 9 months ago. Now it's already gone, right? You don't think about it, but you may not be able to fire this person for a year. But what happens at day 366 or 367? Will you be able to fire them then? Right? Again, if you have that stack of documentation, that person is secure in their job for 365 days. Bam! Day 366, gone, right? And think about it. If you're staying with this company, I would rather be drinking a beer a year from now talking about this a-hole employee I had versus drinking a beer and crying about this a-hole employee I still have, right? So that's one thing. Then the next thing that you can do, and I've seen a lot of business owners do this, is if you can't fire somebody, you can simply start making their job so painful that they quit. This is one of the tactics business owners use many times, basically so that they don't have to pay unemployment insurance. I mean, it's used in nefarious ways, but it is used. But basically, I've known a lot of business owners, either they don't have the money to do things like pay for unemployment insurance or worry about that. So here in the U.S., if I fire an employee, that jacks up my uninsurance, my uninsurance insurance rates and that kind of stuff. But if you quit, it doesn't. So I just start making your life a little more miserable and try to get you to quit. I've also seen that with issues where people have, basically, when you have employees that get a little legalistic about things like firing, right? And you're like, well, if I fire you, they might sue me. But again, if you quit, that's up to you. So one of the things you can do is you can just start making their life a lot more miserable, right? If they are not doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, well, then they probably don't need that nice new computer that they're using. So that can be allocated to somebody else, and they can have the 5-year-old thing that can't run YouTube very well, right? Oh, look! We're going to be doing work today. Somebody needs to come in at midnight and clean up the network cabling, right? Oh, hey, you don't want to do whatever this is, debugging or whatever. Guess what? Toilets need to be washed. right? They may bitch a fit, but that's the nice part with employees. The big difference between employees and contractors is employees can be retasked, right? Unless you have a specific contract, you might have a specific contract, but most employees don't have a specific contract. If you're my senior network engineer and I'm the boss, I have the right to tell you to wash the toilets, to clean the toilets, right? Again, as long as I give you the proper gloves and as long as I give you the proper fucking safety equipment, I can tell you to wash the toilet, because that's one of the reasons that you have employees, is because you can retask them for other things. Like you'll get a lot of computer geeks that will complain because there'll be something like an inventory. So like there are a lot of us, a lot of IT people, work in companies that deal with logistics. So maybe you have a warehouse. A warehouse full of a zillion different widgets. Every once in a while, all those widgets have to get inventoried. And inventorying widgets simply takes a lot of manpower. So sometimes, the lowest level geeks, the CEO of the company will walk in and go, okay, I need 10 of you. We're going out there with all the warehouse workers in the 100-degree weather, and we're going to start scanning barcodes in order to do inventory, right? The ability you have as an employer is that you can retask people. So you can just start retasking this Yahoo to the absolute worst tasks possible. And again, this is the same type of thing. Oh yeah, we need to have somebody that's going to cover the 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift. Looks like it's up for you, right? And then you just make their life miserable so that they leave. So that is one of those things to think about. No, that's probably the tact I would go, because like I say, there's this whole, and I know, why I get so snarky with this is I remember when I was doe-eyed and naive, and I remember when I was making money off of technology, and I was like, wow, if I can get other employees in here and we all work together, we can make this amazing. And then I ran into employees, and I was just like, what the hell's wrong with you people? Money is literally hanging off of trees. All we have to do is go, and instead you're doing whatever it is you're doing. So be careful with that. Like I say, I would do the disciplinary meetings and I would document the infractions. Again, sometimes that works. Sometimes that works as a training tool. I don't think it really will in this person, but what it does is it creates your case so you can get rid of them. If not now, later. Because again, that's one thing a lot of people don't think about. Is like, I can't fire this person for a year. Okay, yeah, but what about day 366? Day 366, can't get rid of this person? Because if you don't start building up an argument against them now, the problem is their contract or whatever may be coming up, when it's about to come up, if there's no documentation saying that they're idiots, remember, your bosses or your boss's bosses don't know what's going on in your department. If your department is pushing out product and they're doing it basically within budget and basically on time, they're going to figure everybody in the department is good enough. Right? And so when that person's contract comes due, or that person, whatever is coming for renewal, your boss's boss will look at the department, they'll look at the person, they'll go, well, obviously this person is doing good enough, and then again, then they roll into the next year's contract because you didn't build up the argument against them first. I would be documenting that. I would be documenting the hell out of all their infractions, and then I would just be making their life miserable. Just make their life so miserable that they quit. Because that's, like I said, that's how it works at the end of the day.